Welcome, everybody, to today's Lunch and Learn. I'll be your host, Jared. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be able to answer them to the best of my ability, and I'll also demonstrate them in the decisions environment if I can. So whoever has a question, go ahead, type it in the chat, and I can help you out. Go right ahead, James. Let's talk about it. Permissions and tasks. What you got?
All right, so I'm kind of frustrated today. I created a folder structure, okay, within decisions that tiers down. And at the very top level of that folder structure, I gave permissions to a certain group that should have full permissions to anything under that in that structure. But when I go to run the flow that's embedded in there, in one of those flows, it is doing some weird things if I don't have permission to do a fetch on a certain entity.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't, it's really hard to explain just by explaining, but there's a flow that does a fetch entity.
Sure, I'm with you.
And I've set it, what I did to just test out permissions is I gave everything under the top level designer folder, I gave it designer privileges. And in those designer privileges, I gave it full, every checkbox is checked.
Okay.
So I assume that means that any folder under that top level folder has those permissions. Is that correct? Is that
correct?
Okay. So when I run that, which would include this flow and any data sets it's trying to access in this flow, because they all reside under that top level where I just gave permissions. They're not in the same folder, they're not associated with the same project, but they're in that structure. Does that make sense? In other words, the data set I'm trying to fetch from isn't in the same project as the flow that I'm executing.
It isn't in the same project, or it is?
It is not.
Okay.
But both of them should have the same permissions regardless, because they're under that top level, folder that I add the permissions to.
Now, so what's the behavior that's happening? So I got this set up.
Yeah. So what I did with my account is I took away my administration privileges, and I just gave myself designer privileges for this test. And when I run that flow and it does the fetch on the entities for that entity I created, it doesn't find it. And I did that where you can select to see the SQL in the output. And when I see that, I see it's going against the permission view and trying to and determining whether you have permission to execute the flow or execute that fetch, I guess. And it's just not finding. It's like it returns nothing. But if I set myself up as an administrator and I run that same flow, it fetches it.
It fetches it. So the data type you're fetching, you said that's in the same folder scheme?
Yes, it is. Okay, so it's not in the exact same area, but it's within that top level folder where I gave full
permission. Have you gone to that specific area and given permissions to that designer just to see if no. Okay.
What I did is I did check all the folders because I'm not sure how that permission behavior works. Like if you give it at a top level and then you go down to a certain folder and give it add a permission list, does it accumulate or does it override?
I think it would override if you change it. Because I think by default, let's see, this is a great, I can talk about so you can have permissions and you can also we're gonna say permissions. And you could also, let's see, where's permission inheritance? You could also change how permissions get inherited
Right. Well, you
to the
can,
different
you
objects.
can
Yeah,
override it, right?
exactly. I'm trying to think if I give this. Yeah, obviously I would have that because I'm admin, but if I give this. All right, so that's that one. Designer. I think if I do a lower level one, let's see. Yeah, there we go. So you can disable permission inheritance or you can re-enable it, which it will just grab the main one. But if you, I believe if you do add permissions, it would override it. So let's say,
Right.
so let's say I give, let's run a test case. This may help. It's not what it sounds like. There's just something weird in maybe the permissions that you set. That's what it sounds like on the offset. Like there's just
Yeah, that's what
something.
I mean, I've double checked this many different ways and I can't figure out why.
Well, the entity
Mm,
that you're trying to access, I would give right now as I demonstrate this because I'm just going to test some permissions things. Like give
mhm,
permissions to the designer user or that account that you're using.
mhm.
Permission to that other folder that houses the
Okay.
data, and then run the query to see if it works because that will
Okay, I'll
determine
try that.
whether
Yeah, I
it's
think I
not
did that
inheriting.
scenario, but I'll do it again just to
Sure,
make
sure, yeah.
sure. I'm not quite sure if I did that or not, but I think I did that. I want to
Because
think
like
about
if I
that.
want to give, like for example, if I just want to give, yeah, as you do that, I'm gonna just demonstrate. So if I want to give permissions to, let's say designer users, let's say can use, can open, can view, and then I pick, and I'm gonna say, let me do an account. Let's do it from the account level. I don't want this. And I forgot what the designer user account was. So I can say can use, can open, can view, click OK. So now I should have access to, I wish it told you like what thing you're looking at because I always forget. I think it was just here. Manage permissions, and obviously I'm not doing the top level. Designers, pick, can use, can open, can view, boom. Then I got that here, and then I can save permissions. So I just have permissions for the all user there. I'm gonna do, was it designers at decisions.com? I think it was this. Yeah, it was. And so then I have access to the hospitals,
Mhm,
right? So I can view this information
mhm.
because
Yeah, I
that's
can
what I
view it.
gave.
When I log in, I can view it and I can see it,
Yeah,
like all the
yeah.
stuff. But when I execute the flow, that's when the problem happens. I can see it. I can
Sure.
navigate right to that data set and open it up and all that stuff.
Sure,
I just
sure.
can't execute a fetch against it. I don't
No,
understand.
I'm with you. I'm just building up in sections. So now I can do this. Now let me see if I can build I know I have a flow that I can utilize to test that out. I'm gonna do medical project. Let's see. So let's say I have flows. And so let's say I want to create a new hospital. Let's do that. To create random, let's say create hospital. Yeah, let's say I want to create a new hospital, right? So now I'm going to give, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do your scenario. Let's see if I can do this, manage permissions. And I'm going to remove the permissions here, make medical project. I'm going to add here, add designer. And then I can say can use, can open, can view. And then I'm going to add a flow. And this is going to be fetch patient data for fun. And then when I do that, take the fetch entity step, we add this here, I have my patient case over here. Obviously this one is gonna work. Now that fetch, are you running an actual fetch entities or is it actually one of your query integrations?
The fetch entities actually, because it's
Okay,
just
it's
an
just fetch
entity I
entity.
created. In
Cool,
Decisions
cool,
for this.
cool, cool. I just want to make sure I had the same setup that you had.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
have here, so I got this case. We're gonna enable this. That should, all I did is I removed the permissions on hospitals. I added them back, or I've added to project, but the only ones, just so that we know where we're at, is I've just added designer stuff, can use, can open, can view. So let's see what
Mhm.
that means in regard to when I go here. So let's see, I'm on 819. So if I log out and I log back into designers at decisions.com. And if I go to what is it? Oh yeah, that's right. Let me do this same password that I always use. And no, go back, go back, go back. There we go. And so I get the medical project, I go to flows, and let's just, now how are you running it? Are you running it in the workflow catalog, or are you running it just in the designer project?
In the designer project, just as, I'm actually debugging it,
Okay, you're
so I
actually
can see what's
debugging
going
it.
on.
Okay, I see. Fetch patient data. Okay, perfect. That helps. See, I don't have the ability to edit it like you do, but I can run
Yeah.
it. Fetch data run full.
Yeah,
So it ran,
yeah, man.
but now I can't know. Oh, wait, but I can. Oh, no, I don't because I don't have the thing. So, okay, so we know that's the project level, or that's the permission level for that. And obviously I can't change the permissions because I'm only designer,
Right.
which makes sense. So I can't modify it by, so I wonder if, can I click on anything? So I can't go inside of the,
Yeah,
that's fine. Okay, so then what we're gonna do is let's add another layer of complexity to this. I'm gonna go back here, go back to my medical project that I created. We're gonna edit the permissions. And I wonder if it's, I can edit, I wonder if I just need to have the ability to edit it. When we click OK, save permissions. Now let's see what happens. And designer at decisions.com. We're gonna never, and then I go back here, and then I go to flows. I'm gonna go to fetch data for fun. I should be, okay, cool. Edit allows me to do that. And then I run this. I get results though. Yep, that makes sense. So I get all the results to come in for that hard. Yeah, so it looks like it got the data, and all I needed was to can edit to be able to change that. Is there, I would have to see the folder structure for that. That seemed like, if we can, let's see, who's on the call with me right now? If we can have a support ticket submitted with you, because that sounds like it's something either there's something that maybe we're overlooking with the permissions, or maybe something's weird with that version.
yeah. I do have a support call with Kobe, I think,
Okay,
later on today. It's about, it's similar things. I got a few things. We're working on some repository issues I'm having too.
sure.
So I can
We
ask him that there.
Yeah, that would
But
be a good thing to ask, because we have to share screen. See, I believe it's just messing around with the permissions, and maybe it's not. Maybe that particular, maybe the data is in a different location.
yeah, I don't know what's going, it's something with that entity itself and fetching from it. Because it fetches fine. If I set myself up as an administrator and run it,
Yeah,
it fetches it just fine.
and
And if,
you're for certain the date, like the actual, like where the thing lives. Like, so,
mhm,
like, see how I have my hospitals?
right,
So for example, if I create, let's say I created a hospital, just so you can paint, so you can make sure we're on the same page, which I think we are. If I create a hospital, and I'm going to say, yeah, I know that we're gonna put this thing. Let's see, where's the ID? Let's say I change this, right? And I'm gonna move this. Let me create another hospital. I'm gonna put it in Project Alpha, right? We'll just store it there. What will happen is, so we'll go back to create hospitals, and then I'll move on to the next question. Carter, I see your question. I haven't forgotten about you. I just wanted to put a nice bow on this, because if I pick this, we go to all, I go to Project Alpha. I'm just going to store it there just for sake of laughs and giggles. We're going to debug this. And then I'm going to say this is, I have hospital ABC, I think. So I'll say this is hospital D, right? And I create this. So boom, that hospital gets created. And I know, and maybe this might be something new for me. I believe, let's see, it's in hospital D. Cool. It's in Project Alpha. Because I don't have permissions to that, I don't think I could fetch it from the designer location. Because that makes sense, because it will presume the permissions hospitals. Now, if I go to flows, and let me just say, we're going to change this instead of fetching. We're going to say this is fetch hospitals or fun. Hospital. And then I'm going to debug this. Okay. Yeah, we get results, but I presume I don't think D will be there. That's what my assumption is. And I am correct. So I only get 3.
Wow, that's a bit concerning. Because that means that if you've got like a common entity that you're working with, you've got to make sure that anybody that is going to run up against that entity for any reason has permission to that entity to be able to fetch, or I would assume save to it as well.
Sure. But that, so,
Usually like table
uh-huh.
structures and entity, what I refer to as just tables,
Sure.
structures on the database. Usually those are system wide. Like if you've got a process that creates a table or a row in a table, and you select against that in a process, as long as you got permission to the process to run it, it's usually the system that, assumes responsibility for all the fetches and stuff. You don't have to have permissions exactly to that unless, you know, you, it's you, typically that's done at the process level where you got permissions to either run this or you don't.
Yeah, and I think if you that because there's because these folder extensions and case entities and also the entity data structure live in decisions, that's why there's that added layer of permissions where it's like you have to then define who can get permissions to that thing, right? And we have flow steps. So if once you create these entities and you always know that I need this person to have access to it, I think there's give permissions, there's a whole slew of steps. Come on. Is it called folder? I don't want to run a report on folder permissions. There is a step, give permission. I've used this. I am not losing my mind. Maybe I am losing my mind. I just remember seeing there was a permission step. If you go to, so you said you're using a folder extension, right?
It's an entity. It's
It's
just
an
an
entity.
entity. Yeah, it's just an entity.
Okay, so it's just an entity. So I believe there is an internal services integration, and maybe that's where I remember saying. I just thought it was more available. I think there's a permission service. Maybe there isn't.
It might
Personalization,
be under
person service.
security or something like that.
Or it could be under folder permissions or something.
Wow.
No, there is a permission step. I have seen this. I am losing my mind. I mean, what I can do is for sake of time, I'll find this. I know I've done it before because there was a whole project I made where I gave people their own folder extension views to create their own designer elements that's stored in their own folder. And so the process that added new records to that main dashboard would create the folder extension. So created a dashboard for you, James Cox, and then gave you permissions to go to that dashboard automatically on the fly. So I didn't have to worry about defining later on after the fact, oh, I got to give James, it just, hey, create this folder record, give James permissions to it. And there's a step that I'll find, because that would help resolve your thing. Because then whenever you create these entities that you're storing, you always want a certain group to have permissions to it, regardless of where you store it. Then you could just add that one step and then it takes care of it. So you don't have to
that would be
manually
very
search for it.
helpful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way that's done because I didn't understand that. I thought, I mean, I've just always, I guess, assumed that permissions were done, as long as you could run the flow, you had access to do anything that the flow was doing.
Yeah, and I
But that's
believe,
not the case, right?
yeah, well, I believe it depends on the data structure. I think database structures, because they don't live in the system, I believe it is that way. But anything that is an entity or forward, like entity folder extension that actually has an object that lives inside the portal, right? Like the hospital that I can go to, that has the added layer of you have to make sure that the user has permissions for.
Okay.
So
Now, does that extend to subflows as well? Like if I have permission to the flow, but it calls a subflow that's in a different folder, do I have to have permission set up for that subflow too?
you'd have to have can use permissions for that folder where it's stored. So that's why, for example, when I go over here, my global resources, Let's see, where is this? Oh, let me log out into the other account that actually can access it. So whenever you create a global resources and you know you're going to have other processes use it or other accounts, and you don't want them to edit it, you'll just need to make sure that you give that group, whoever it is, can use permissions. And then when they execute it, they will just be able to execute. That's it. They can't edit. They can't do anything. It's just, hey, they can just run this thing.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All
I'll
righty.
circle back and find that step for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Let's see, Carter. All right, I'm gonna allow you to talk and I'll read your questions. Thank you for your patience. All right, it says, question related to an item brought up yesterday. When creating an inline editable report, you can source the data for the report from a decision objects. The report's able to edit there. There is settings menu. Yep, data source report, checkbox. However, when sourcing the data from the report of external database integration, settings option is not present. I've confirmed that the editable checkbox under the grid view, setting option on the report is checked to be editable, and that some of the individual fields set to can't edit, as well as is inline editing on a report possible field. Is inline editing on a report possible when sourcing from an external database integration? If not, would external entity be the best way to accomplish the same behavior? Got it. So any additional information you want to add to that? I think I understand what you're trying to do. In summary, how do you enable can edit for a database integration, right?
That's it.
Perfect. All right, let's have some fun. We got time. I will create an integration and we shall see what we can do. Now let's see, I'm gonna log into one of the training servers, one of the ones we have here that we can utilize, because I think I'll need an actual integration. I can't just use my local for that. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this preset up there and we shall see. I believe, so here is my, in case like for some systematic reason, I just can't set it up. My gut reaction is I don't think you can. And the reason why is because it depends on the permission that you have to the database integration. So like, for example, when I go into data cleanup for the address master data, we create that integration, right? Since I set up that external database connection over here, edit, come on. It's always one I gotta show. There we go. Edit database connection. So you see how we have this certain account right here?
Yep.
The training connector. So this is an actual like account on the actual database itself. And this account only has read permissions. So that's why my assumption is I don't think you can, because it depends on what the privileges of the account that's accessing the database integration has. So, but I want to test that assumption. That's just my initial gut reaction. I'm not sure. So let's go ahead. And I actually think we have to create another integration, which will be fine. So let me go ahead and grab that and we shall test that out. Data cleanup.
So if the account that we were using for the connection had write permissions, is it possible, or
I believe
just not a functionality? Okay.
I believe so. I think it's tied to that. That's my assumption, but we're going to test that out real quick. I just got to create this connection back to it. Dun, 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 dun. Where is it? Training team, help me out here. Where is it? Is it in the requirements document or is it in task list? It's been a while.
Well, so I know. What are we looking for again? Apologies.
The connection to the, I found it. It's in the task list. The
Okay.
TryDB connection to it. So I can demonstrate this. All right, let me go ahead and set up this connection here. Let's say we TryDB. Server name, TryDB. It's not Windows auth. And I think it's address. Master data. Username is training user. And the password is super secret. Not really, but I mean, kind of is, but. All right, success. I'm going to connect to this thing. We got it. I'm going to add a table real quick. This is just pre-set up. You've already done this. I just need to do this so that I have a valid, setup for it. And bada bing, bada boom. Perfect. So now what I can do is as this thing loads, I'm not going to wait for it. I'm just going to open up another tab. We're going to navigate directly to it. I'm going to go to the LNL folder. Look at that. We already got one created. This is awesome. All right. And then what I'm going to do, we'll take test. And we'll have some fun with the test. for right now. So I'm going to create. So question for you, Carter. Are you doing this via a form or you're trying to do it on like a report view dashboard?
Report view dashboard.
Got it. Okay, so then I'll have to do it a different way. Because what I was going to do, I mean, I could show it both ways. I'll show it both ways, but I'll do this way first. So this is going to be test dashboard for Carter. Yes, I can't spell. I'm fixing. All right. And then what we're going to do is in here, I have to create a page. Oh no. Create page. And then we create the page. We're going to call this address data test edit thingy. Put that in here. And as we do that, I don't have the report created. So I actually have to go back to the report. So let me switch back to the other tab so I don't have to wait for the loading of that. I'll create this report. I'm going to say this address master data report test edit. And then we're going to add that data source. And we can do, what is it? It is, I think it's a database. Nope, it's common. Nope. Oh yeah, common, try DB, DB address master data. And we'll do account code, first name, last name. All right, so let's say, let's see, where's the address of this? I want to know where this person lives. Haha, not, in a normal way. All right, so let's say I want to change Merle and I'm going to change it with Robert. So let's see, how could I do this? I'm going to see if I go to settings. And let's see if I can go to, look at that, I don't even see the edit. Or, I don't think I clicked on it. So first, we're gonna go to can edit. And I'm gonna save this. And let me open up that document because I know I'm 100% gonna forget how to do this. Edit, inline, edit. Allowing inline edit on report, boom. All right, so we're gonna pick on this one. Can edit, what's the other thing? Is that it? I thought there was something else. Grid view, that's what it is, haha. So then we gotta go back here on the settings or grid view, editable, wow, I slurred that. And then let's go ahead and run this report and let's see if that works. If I go here, did I say it for the first name? Did I do it for last name? First name, can edit, send field change data source. Is link, so it's not as link, but we set that up as edit. And wait, so first name, well, let's make sure first name, last name. Okay, all these are can edit. Okay, so they're all can edit. That's good. All right, so let me run this report one more time. Let's see if I can double click into it and change it. All right, so I'm not seeing it. Let me add it to a dashboard just to make sure that's not just something in that menu, because I know there's some menus that if you add it, it doesn't have the full feature yet. So it may not be a good test, but the good test of this one will be picking this report right here. Inline edit report. Wait, it's this one. Boom. I'm pretty sure it's that. Boom here, close this, add this dashboard for tests, page/dashboard. That's what we want, save, and then we go to this form right here. We can load that. And yes, it does not allow, did I configure it? And I've allowed the can edit by double clicking. Editable. Yes, so I
Is there,
believe.
do
Go
you
ahead.
change it in grid view? Sometimes you have to go and make it inline.
Yep, no, I did.
Oh, we did that?
So
Okay, cool.
I think so, but let's double check. I could have forgotten it. So if I go here, so you said grid, editable, was the thing you wanted specified?
No, yeah, try specified. I
All right,
think you have
cool.
to, there's just sometimes with those, you got to go into grid view and make and actually enable inline editing on the grid view instead of just editing it.
Come on. Yeah, I believe, I don't think you can on a database integration unless we give that account edit permissions or ability to be able to write to that data. That's what I think. A way I can kind of somewhat prove that is come on, server, work with me. Come on. Yes, please get out. Thank you. Yeah, so it still won't, which makes sense. I wonder if let me check the integration. I wonder if there's any connections, anything I can change for this. Edit table, oh, that's adding the table, edit, that's just permissions, dependencies, repository. So yeah, that's just that. Okay, so I can connect to that. Yeah, so I think if we change that, I believe so there's two ways we can handle this. I believe, yeah, it doesn't allow the inline edit because the service account that you have utilizing to connect to that database doesn't have the permissions on the database side to write records, which makes sense. So some workarounds that we can do, and this is very, this will depend on the size of your data to see how realistic this is. One of the things you can do is you can take over the data, move it into a database structure in decisions that's like a mirrored copy of it, and then you can edit it that way. The other way, so that's one way if that you could do that, where then now you're editing a copy of that data, and then when you're ready to push that data back to the external database, then you can utilize steps to like save, batch insert, save entities, to save the data back into the actual data table. So that's one way. The other way, let's go back here. I'm going to go to the test. I'm going to create like a quick form process. I'm going to go to show form. And what we can do, because I'm curious if we do it from an advanced, I wonder if you could do it from an advanced data grid on a form. And I think that one would work because when you get the data and put it in the advanced data grid, you're technically editing the data with the variables on that form and not something specific. So I think that
that makes sense. And I think that was a suggestion yesterday. There might actually be one already in that inline delete me folder that you have right above the LNL.
Oh yeah, that one there. Maybe let me check. Inline edit.
The different project.
Oh, but this will work too. Inline edit.
Yeah, that might be the same one then.
Yeah, but let me change the type. But yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So I'll just adjust this. So instead of using the accounts, what we'll do is I'm going to, I think it's like dbo.address or something. Yeah, try db address. Come on, show it. Try db address. Perfect. And I'm going to call this address info. Address info, uncheck show the delete action, output, add updated, or I'll just say output addresses, edit the inline because that should change it. And then we're going to grab the account code, first name, last name, and then we'll say address 1. Then we'll save this. And let me make sure that this is allowed to edit, can edit. Yep, can edit. Yep, there you go, can edit. And we'll make sure that the grid view, I think the grid view, because that's all set up by the form, I think. And so where's the input? What's the error now? Advanced data grid table definition types does not support preview. Okay, I don't know what that means. We'll find out if something blows up when this goes through, because I don't think that should matter for it. All right, cool. So now we have, and then we can go here. It won't be fetch entities anymore. It will be the actual integration steps. So it's going to be integration and then database, try DB. And then we're just going to do a get all. get all from address data done, and if it fails, we'll just go here. And this one, list of try DB address, perfect. Click back on. And then let's see if this works. I believe this should work. All right, show the form. Yeah, there we go. So now I can edit it and stuff like that, which this makes sense. So this could be Robert, and we'll call him G. And he lives on, I don't know, 459 Malibu Point, right? Next to Tony Stark. So, and then, but the problem with this is then you would have to, because if I hit done, that will be changed in the form. It's just, it's not saved. So you have to find what the differences are and then save it back. That's the only thing with this one. But I believe that's why you can do it in this view and not in the dashboard view, is when you do the report viewer directly, you're directly querying that database and it utilizes that connector account to run that query. And if that doesn't have write permissions, then it can't edit it, I believe.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
mhm.
And I asked the same question yesterday, but I'll go ahead and ask it again.
Sure.
Is there any metadata that shows which cells changed or which
Any
rows?
metadata. So you can't. So
Or do
you
you
have to
just have to
enable it.
loop through and
So
compare?
to like just output the difference.
Yeah.
Like,
Because we don't want to write all of the data back to the database. We just want to find the changes and then update those records.
I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. So okay, so if you want to just do the changes, what would be the easiest way? I don't think there's a. Is there a way? I want to know if I'm trying to get edit here. I want to know what could inline edit. Output select some output all. Output address, because that does output all. Is there a way to update the selected? I think you would have to loop through and find the differences that way. Can't think of an easy way to do that. You
address data
could
result doesn't have an is changed or something in there.
for here,
The
down
output, the
here.
address data, yeah, see the output.
Yeah, this will just
Um,
give it all. Like it's just gonna say, even if I
And there's
change
no
one or two
field on there
records.
to know that it changed, right? Like is
Yeah,
changed type of flag or something.
correct. Now, what you could do is you could utilize it, like into James's point, you could do a data repeater of some sort. And then like have some type of checkbox or delineation that says, hey, this thing was updated. And then if that's updated, then you can just filter by that Boolean property and then output that information. And that would be an easier way to do that. So data repeater could help in that regard. And then you give your end users a more form-like experience for that. But that would be I think, two ways you can do it.
Okay. And then in the documentation, there's something about external entities and setting up the
Mhm.
external entity to
Yeah.
interface with the database and having inline edits available that way. How would I do that?
Oh, that's a great question. I haven't utilized external entities in a long time, but let's do this. Let's see, external entity. I'm just gonna put this over the screen so you guys can see what I'm reading here. So what that does is this one allows, yeah, so how external entities work is this gives you add category name prompt. Where's the one? Basically what it does is it gives you, would you have the document that you're talking about with the, I just blanked about the, connecting with the database? Because what this does is this just essentially what an external entity does is it gives you a configuration folder for your external database. So for example, like my address data is not inside the decision system, it's on a separate database, but I still want to have like right clickable user actions for it. And so what it does is it allows you to create that for your external entity, and you have to then define what the delete, fetch, get ID, and all that stuff is for it. So that's what it does. I'm not. So do you have
Yeah,
that?
I saw the suggestion was in a forum post. Let me see if I can pull it back up.
Oh, that'd be great. Let me see if I can find the form too. It says it was support.decisions.com. Forum. Oh, it's community.decisions. Excuse me. It's changed. Let's see. I'm looking for it. So it was external entity. I think.
Discussion 2995.
Let's see. Discussion 2995.
And it's talking about user actions on an external database.
Oh, like this one, external
So
entity
that might
setup.
be you possibly. It's a different one, but
Okay. Where's the 2995?
it's in the
Is that
URL. Community.decisions.com/discussion/2995. Or I can drop in the chat.
Got you. So it's like 2995. Haha, right here.
Yeah.
Using data from external database. Ever being sourced from external database, what would be the best way to utilize user actions on it in terms of statistics? Okay, so just takes you to here. So yeah, so basically what that, so we can walk through that. So I can just show you how that used. I'm not sure if it gives you that ability that you were mentioning, but what it does, let me go back to the studio. Oh, great. No, I don't need that to show you. So what it does, I'm gonna go to my local, is I can basically say, I'm gonna pick a data type that's not housed in my system. Let's see if it would be better if I had this. And what I can say is, let's go to, that's an entity extension. Do I have a data type here? Let me just create, I'm gonna create one real quick. Create data types, user defined types, external entity. Is then what I can do is I can say this is my external entity. Let's say this is, I think what it also does is it also allows you to have additional fields on it as well. So like if there's other fields you want to add or track on it, then you can use an external entity. But if you just want like a configuration folder behavior where you can create actions for it, then the actual thing you want is a configuration extension. And you can say, I want entity actions, and then you can search for your try DB type name. And then and then it would say for that type, you'll have those actions for it. And then you can define how you would create that for it. Let's see if my server's back up for testing. But that's how that would work. So external entities allow you to have additional fields to add to it and then create the user actions for it. But if you just need the configuration folder to create right-clickable actions for external database connections, you can utilize the entity configuration extension, and that will add that to it once you search for it.
Okay, and when we go like talking about data management with the entity configuration extension, is any of the data that is stored in the external database stored in the backend of decisions?
Is any of the data stored when you do the behavior, like just the configuration folder behavior?
Yeah.
No, it won't be stored. The data won't be stored, no. It just basically says, here's the type. It just basically has a mapping from the data type of like try DB data type and then the extension data for it. Not the extension data, the configuration extension ID for it so that you can have those features, but it doesn't store the data there.
Okay, I'll take a look at those options and see which one's best. Appreciate the help.
Awesome, my pleasure. All right. All right, any other questions? I think Andy, Jeremy, you guys have been in here for a bit. Any questions for you guys, VT, any questions?
I got a quick one again, if no one else does.
Sure, go right ahead.
Tasks, when you assign a task out, the default is to email that task out to whoever's on the task list, correct? It's going to send them an email with that little button to link back to the task to complete it.
Send them a notification, I think.
Right, well,
Mhm.
and that's typically an email, right? I guess maybe there's somewhere you can configure where that,
Yeah.
what that is, okay.
Oh, absolutely, I can show you. So if we go to
And-
flows, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted, can I turn that off, right? If I don't want a notification going out at all.
I believe so. Let me pick one. Pick existing, sure, alpha form. We got this. So we're gonna assign this one. I believe it's in assignment setup. We can
Yeah,
do
I couldn't
assignment
find it
folder,
there.
suggest.
I think it might be down in the email settings down there.
It
Right there.
could be
Is that
default,
where?
none.
Okay,
Yeah,
so if I say
notification
none,
policy.
it's, okay, okay.
Mhm.
All right, so that's one question. Now, the other one is if I do send that out, or what I was thinking is I would have to create my own email to do this, but is there any way to, when the user gets the notification and they click on it, to send them right to the form instead of going to their like inbox or whatever? Because we have users that aren't going to be familiar with the decisions portal, and I would rather just send them right to the form that they have to, approve, instead of them having to click around on an inbox or, click it and then click another button that says, to go into the form. How that works, it's a little bit kludgy from someone who's not really familiar with decisions right now. I'd rather just bring up that form. Can I do
Yeah, so they
that?
can just so they can
Yeah.
just open it without having to log in or do anything of that stuff.
Right, because we got CAS login already. So if I can just bring them to the form, they would never even know they're in decisions. I just bring them to the form they want. And I've already doing that with the initial requested form. It's casing in and it's executing a flow. So I've got that set up. But the task once the task has been assigned and now that the approver's going in, can I do the same thing with their form?
Yeah, so it's basically, so I know we do this, let's see, with the training. This is just a decisions flow that runs where everyone can hit it. So I believe, so yes, you can do that. So let's walk through that. What you would do for that is I believe we can set up let's not suggest. I believe you have to do, I'm thinking, there's a couple of things you'd have to do here. What you need to do, I have to enable that, but I don't want to enable that. There's a couple, so here's what's going through my head, just so you know how I'm trying to filter out, is that I'm trying to think, you can use the guest account, enable that, and then you can assign a task, or probably not guest, you would have another like account that's just for like, hey, you only have access to, what do you call it? To look at this assignment, and then you'd use that like named session to access that. And then you can set the assignment URL. And I think there's steps in integration internal services.
Well, I will know the email. I already know exactly who's going to assign it, and they will be CAS authenticated in. So we will know who they are when they come in.
So these are all people who would have access to the decision system, just not designer
Correct.
access. Got it.
Right, and I
okay.
want them to go to the form instead of the portal. I want them to go directly to the form they have to approve for now.
Gotcha. So then I believe it's a get assignment URL. Where's the assignment? And then you can send that to them.
Okay.
Because that helps out a lot. I think it's here somewhere.
Okay.
But even then, what you could do is you could craft that URL, which is what I've done. And there might be, oh wait, here we go. Get due assignment URL. I think it's this. So let's see. I'm going to create this.
And
Get
where was that
assignments.
under?
Assignment
What was the navigation
service.
for that? Assignment services
Yeah.
under
So integration, internal services,
internal services, assignment service.
assignment.
Okay,
And I believe that will actually get you the URL, and then I'll put the due assignment URL.
right.
And I believe I'd have to test this and create it real quick.
I can try that. I mean, yeah,
Okay,
I can
yeah.
play around with that. I just wasn't even aware that there. If that will take me right to the form, the task form, that's what I want. I don't want them to have to go to the portal and click the inbox and such like that right now.
Exactly.
Eventually, we're going to make a nice page, like a dashboard for anybody logging in, any task. It'll be a nice page, but they're just not used to, they're not going to be in decisions a lot. So we don't want them having to fumble around figuring out, oh, it's the inbox. Oh, I got to click that. Oh, it's this blue button.
Sure.
We don't want
Totally
that.
understand.
We want them to go right to the form they need to go to and click the approve or whatever, and they're out. So,
Totally.
okay. I will play with those steps and see if I can figure something out there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That gives me a good lead. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
All
that,
right.
man.
Anytime. Andy, Jeremy, did you guys have questions? I saw someone's hands up real quick, but I missed it. All right. I don't see any hands up. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and we'll end this lunch and learn, since we got some great questions. Appreciated everyone who attended and everyone who commented. So we'll get this mixed and uploaded into our YouTube channel so you guys can watch it if you need to refresh any of the things that we talked about today. So next or tomorrow, Greg on our training team will be running that lunch and learn. So please attend that and we'll be able to answer even more of your questions. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.